Welcome back to the Emerald Arc. I am your host, Blackhawk, um, and this is episode 3. Today we were talking about the Monday Magic finale, the 211 show, and the Junior Tag League. As there was a lot going on this week. But before we get started, few housekeeping notes. I'm still trying to figure out what the best day for recording would be. So please bear with me while I figure that out, according to my schedule as well as the Noah schedule. Trying to figure out what the best time to be able to watch everything, as well as take notes and be able to record and post everything. And I'd like to get back to doing uh, this live, but to do that live, I need to have somewhat of a set day, and I haven't quite figured that part out yet. Second piece, I reset my desk this weekend and forgot to check to see if my camera was hooked up and set up, and it was not. And I did not have time to get that ready before this recording, so I'm sorry if you came for the video to see my face. You will not see that today, unfortunately. You will get the junior tag tourney poster. So hope you enjoy looking at all their faces while I talk. And because we have so much to talk about today, and I do want to try to keep this under an hour, we will only be covering title matches slash things I think are important for future reference, and the junior tag league matches. So we have a lot to go over. We'll still go over results. We just won't dive into those matches on this one. So let's go ahead and get started with Monday Magic. The Monday Magic finale. It is over for this season, but it looks like they are expanding Monday Magic, which I think is great. I do love when wrestling companies work together. And so I know Monday Magic is mostly a Noah event, but they do pull in talent from other places. As a example with this match here that we're about to start with, I do think it's great. I think it's a good idea. Wrestle Universe is, it seems like they're doing their best to have some continuity between everybody and have everybody work together. Because they have I think it's 11 wrestling companies now on Wrestle Universe. So if you're not subscribed, it's a pretty great deal. Even if you don't really know any of these companies outside of maybe Noah or Marigold or DDT, those are pretty much the big ones. But they've got some really good stuff on there. Really good Joshy stuff. TJPW, I always forget about that one. That one's on there. And so definitely worth the money in my opinion. But let's get into Monday Magic. GHC Hardcore Open Weight Title Match. Masato Naka defeats Titus Alexander in 15 minutes and 29 seconds with a title change. Now, this is not a hardcore champ or a hardcore match in the traditional sense, I guess you could say. There's no blood. If you've been watching AEW recently, there's no stabbing objects like a fork or a screwdriver or anything like that. Nothing crazy. It's just kind of like more like a street fight is what they were doing here, which makes sense because they're not in a huge venue to be able to do a lot of the things like that. They're in a pretty tight room with maybe like 200 people in it, so it's not a huge event. And so they don't have a lot of room to be able to get creative with things like that. But these are still really good. Titus Alexander always, every time I watch him, I'm just shocked he's not signed to like a bigger company, or even really just signed to work Noah frequently. So yeah, it's every time I see him, I'm just shocked that he's still kind of freelancing. He hit a standing shining wizard on Tanaka, that kind of blew my socks off. You know, it's a move that usually is done when the opponent's on their knees. He hit it midair, standing, by the way, standing. It wasn't like a top rope one. It was standing doing it, which was even crazier. Um, Tanaka threw a lot of stiff shots in this, which awesome. I love stiff shots. I don't know how much you guys feel about it, but I big fan of stiff shots. Uh, my favorite matches always involve, heavy chops, stiff elbows, stuff like that. Uh, I like my wrestling to look like a real fight. So I do love Tanaka. Um, and he was hitting Titus Alexander. There's a lot of focus on chairs in this match. There was a table spot. Tanaka had a kendo stick at one point. Titus broke the kendo stick over Tanaka. Um, the finish was really cool with a chair headshot, was something you don't really see very often anymore. But in Japan they use those like really like that plastic, um, kind of pre-broken chairs almost. And so it broke the seat bottom broke over Titus Alexander's head, and then Tanaka hit him with a pretty stiff elbow. Um, it was really really good match. I wouldn't say it's like a five home or 5 star, right home about kind of match, but it was enjoyable. I'll probably watch it again. Um, I do wish this belt was defended more often, and I think with Tanaka it will be. I mean, this isn't a shot at Titus Alexander. Tanaka is in Japan more often, doing dates more often, because I don't think Titus ever carried the belt outside of Japan slash Noah events. Um, so I do think we might be seeing more hardcore open weight title matches in the future with Tanaka as champ, which I think is a great thing. Now we move into 6-man tag team match with Marie Malenko, Mayuki Takase, Sophia Sivian defeating Olivia Rose, Dream Girl Illy, and Zones in 6 minutes and 55 seconds. After that, we get a 4-way match. Hayata defeats Archie Cole and Dragon Bane and Ita, 6 minutes and 49 seconds. After that, 8-man tag team match. Chase Emery, Donnie Duncan, Galeno, Iker Navarro defeat Izzy James, Nathan DeWint, Richport Ayala, and Soda Pop in 9 minutes and 58 seconds. All right, so this is where we start getting into another match to talk about. Tag team match with All Rebellion and Alejandro and Kaito Kitayama defeating Los Tranquilos de Japón with Bushi and Rusei in 11 minutes and 34 seconds. Main reason I really wanted to talk about this was, LTJ has a tag team title match later on this week, actually in the next event. But I really wanted to talk about Rusei, because he, for somebody who's only had 4 matches, looks really, really good. I believe he's only had 4 matches. I think he's either 3 or 4, but he wrestles like he's a 2-year vet, which I think is awesome. Now, there's definitely some stuff he's still green about, but he definitely understands how to work a crowd, how to work a camera, and how to be in position and where he's at in the ring. He understands like the big fundamentals that sometimes people really miss, which makes his things that he hasn't quite got down minuscule in comparison, because he can kind of cover them with good body placement, good camera placement, all those kinds of things, which is something I wish more rookies were taught. So if Bushi and Naito are training him to do this, I think Bushi and Naito might need to open a wrestling school, because if Rusei is looking like this on his 4th match, they are they're working magic. wherever they're working. So Bushi wrestled really, really good for someone of his age, as well as kind of what he's been doing with Noah recently. Um, I gotta be honest, I love Naito, love Bushi, love LTJ, but at some point you gotta call it. We'll get into that more later, but Bushi, in comparison to what you were used to, was really, really fun to watch in this one. It felt like he was really actually enjoying himself wrestling a match. Alejandro obviously is amazing. He's one of my favorites on the Noah roster. Um, and we know by this point how I feel about Kaito, but I will say I think this feels like one of his best efforts in recent memory. So this was, it didn't alter my opinion at all, but it did give me a little bit of hope that maybe one day soon my opinion will be altered and I will actually enjoy Kaito again, and think he doesn't need to leave Noah. Because I would hate to see him leave. If we're honest, I would hate to see him go. But I think for his career and for him to be the person that Noah wants him to be, he needs to, and then make a big return and be the ace that they believe he is. All right, final match, the finale of Monday Magic, the main event, GHC Women's Title match. Mayu Iwatani defeats Great Sakia, 14 minutes and 15 seconds. This is another title that I wish was defended more often, especially under the Noah umbrella. I don't feel like this title has had a ton of defenses in its history. I think it's, if my memory serves me right, and I could be completely wrong, I believe it's only like 2 years old. So it's not like it hasn't had a ton of defenses. Noah doesn't run it on their shows other than Monday Magic, which is a little disappointing. I wish they would kind of take a page on a New Japan's book and run it on some of their big shows at least. Um, there's a lot of good competitors for this title. Is why another reason why I think it should be defended more often. Um, but this was a fantastic main event. It delivered everything you would want. Great Sakia, I think, has a very, very good career ahead of her. Um, I think she could be one of these days in talks with, the greatest of her era. Mayu Iwatani, while not being, old, is kind of a different era than Great Sakia. Um, and she is one of the best, to do it now. She's been one of the best in the women's wrestlers in the world right now. So it was really cool to see them go up against each other. Um, Mayu stealing the mist out of Saki's mouth was pretty sick. I did not see that coming. Um, I was rooting for Sakia in this, I gotta be honest, but I was not mad at the result at all. I think that was the correct call. Um, I just love Joshi wrestling. I'm a big fan of it. You going back to when I was talking about stiff shots being my favorite thing about wrestling. Uh, Joshi definitely delivers on that, especially like the older Joshi as well. Nowadays you can still get it pretty good, but the older Joshi, they really pack punches and pack kicks. Um, this was a really, really well paced match with some really, really, really cool moves. So I really enjoyed it. It was a great finale, great main event to end this Monday Magic season. After the match, though, Mayu said she really liked using the mist and feeling a little bit like a heel. So we might be seeing more of that out of her, which I'm not gonna complain about. But it would be a stark contrast from the character that she's going for now. All right, that it was Monday Magic. Now we move into the February 11th show. We were going to talk about 90% of this one because it's all junior tag league as well as 2 championship matches. The only one we're going to skip is this first one. This 8-man tag team match with All Rebellion, Galeno, Haratoki, and Kaito Kitayama, and Midori Takahashi defeating Hajime Ohara, Hiroshi Tsuruya, Manabu Soya, and Yuto Oyagani. God, I'm butchering these names. 6 minutes and 6 seconds. That's pretty short for 8-man tag match. But let's get into the junior tag league because it's what we're here for right now. Kyrian Lacey and Mark True defeat Amakusa and Blackman Sore. Fantastic high-speed match without feeling rushed. Blackman Sore is a really good example of a goofy character, but still like a crazy good wrestler. I mean this in no offense and mean this in the highest regard. He does remind me a lot of like Doink the Clown. Because Doink the Clown, obviously, goofy character, evil clown. But when he got in the ring and that bell rung, he was a world-class wrestler. I think if the guy behind Doink, they had 4 guys behind Doink, 2 of them were really, really good. If either of those guys could have dropped Doink and had like a normal character, we would still be talking about them as incredible wrestlers. But I think they were kind of suffered behind the gimmick. But the crowd loves Blackman Sore. They were chanting for him. Every match that he was in this whole week, they were chanting for him. So it's really cool to see. Especially because you see a goofy character like Blackman Sore and expect them to kind of not like suck, but you don't expect them to have like cool moves and be a major part of the match without them doing something dumb first. So he's a really good example of that, like being a good wrestler but can still be very funny in times where you can be funny. Both teams really needed this win, but Kyrian Lacey and Mark True do end up getting it. Mark True was going crazy with headbutts, so that was very interesting. I don't think I've noticed that before. He might have been doing it this whole time, and I just haven't really been paying attention to it. But I did notice there was an excessive amount of head maneuvers in this match from him. True and Lacey were finalists last year, and really needed this win to gain a little bit of momentum going in. So glad they got that. They're one of my favorites for this whole tournament. I don't know about winning because we're still really early in the tournament. I don't know about winning and placement and all that right now. Because technically all of these are second matches. So everybody's either 1-0 or 0-1. And now is when we start getting, 2-0, 1-1, 0-2 kind of stuff. So they're 1-1. Makusa and Blackman Sore are 0-2. Is that right? I believe so. Yes. Yeah, they're 0-2. Yeah. Yeah, Amakusa and Blackman Sore, as fun as a team they are, they do need to kind of figure something out. We're getting kind of late in the game here to be still goofing a loss like this. But good match nonetheless. Really good way to start off the tag league matches. Then we move into tag league match number 2, Team 2000X in Jun Masakota and Tadeusuke defeat Atashi Kodige and High 69. Team 2000X is the first team to get 4 points, which is kind of insane. I did not expect, I didn't expect this pairing to be the one to get the 4 points. I thought it was going to be the other Team 2000X team to get it, but I guess it's more of like placement on the card because the other team also wins. Spoiler, but we'll get to that in a couple of minutes. Team 2000X said their goal was to finish, or at least this subsect of Team 2000X said they wanted to finish their matches in under 5 minutes. And this is the first time they have done that with a finish in 4 minutes and 13 seconds. Yoshitatsu was out there with him, of course, as always. Played a tiny role, but really didn't get too involved with everything. They pretty much took care of it themselves. I do think it might be time to drop Team Noah. I think I think they might have outlived their necessity. I think it could be good for these guys to get out of Team Noah, and like Muhammad Yone, I don't know what happened to him. He might be injured. I'm not really sure. But he's like the only member of this team that's missing right now. There's only 4 members with Go Shizaki going to All Japan. And so it's just kind of on its back leg. And either they need to revitalize it and give it a purpose, or just, scoot and boogie it, get it out of there. Kodige was doing really, really well, and then had a huge missed knee on Masaoka, which really kind of ruined the momentum of a lot of stuff. But early on in the match, he had a really sick reversal. They just kind of like rolled into a pin for him after he dodged a move, which was pretty sick to watch. But yeah, this was an okay match. This was, what you'd expect out of a Team 2000X match a little bit. Not a ton of interference, but definitely, messing with the ref, playing with the rules, trying to get their way any way they can. So next up, Junior Tag League match number 3. Daga and Daki Odashima defeat Ita and Katsumui Inahara. These two teams have extremely similar structures, with Daga being a vet and Ida being a vet, and Daki being somewhat close to a rookie. I know he's a little bit later, but that, and Inahara also being somewhat like a rookie. Because Inahara is not technically a rookie. He did train under Taka Michinoku, and he has a few more years of experience in Daki Odashima, but he still kind of wrestles like a rookie. And so he's still trying to, prove himself, which is the flip side of Daki, who's already proven himself and has found, a tag partner, and he's got a lot of fans behind him. Inahara's still kind of figuring that side of everything out. I could watch him and Daki go forever. They had a huge chop battle, and they were just going to town, and it was so much fun to watch. This is another one of those, must win for both teams, but only one team can leave as winner, and that would be Daga and Daki. Daga did a really cool move, forcing Inahara to give Ita a DDT. It was pretty sick. And this was the first win for the tag champs. So that's a big win for them. We will talk more about Ida and Katsumori Inahara in a little bit, because we'll talk about the double header from the 14th. They had a match on there. Then we get Junior Tag League match number 4. Team 2000X, Alpha Wolf and Kai Fujimura defeat Alejandro and Dragon Bane in 11 minutes and 22 seconds. Now, if you watch any match from this night, this is the match to watch. This is the best match of the night, bar none. 2 sets of brothers fighting against their brother. So a lot of drama, going in. You expect each team to know the other team extremely well, as they both used to be tag partners. So it was really, really, really good. A lot of good team attacks. Um, Alejandro and Dragon Bane are just so much fun to watch. Alpha Wolf and Kai Fujimura mesh extremely well, much better than I expected them to mesh. I think I've said this every week so far, but I really love them as a tag team. Really love both of them as a tag team. Um, but in the match, Team 2000X used a ref bump, excuse me, and grabbed his junk for the distraction, which was crazy. What a crazy way to end that. Uh, but Alejandro was hung from the ropes by Kai Fujimura and Alpha Wolf after the match, which is still, honestly, to me, an insane thing to do to somebody after you beat them. But, I mean, it's Team 2000X. They're supposed to be the baddest of the bad in Pro Wrestling Noah. So, yeah, that was a really, really, really good match. I would suggest, out of all the matches that happened this week, that is the number one match to watch. Then we move into the GHC Tag Team title match with Los Tranquilos de Japón in Bushi and Tetsuya Naito defeating the White Raven squad in Hayata and Kenta in 14 minutes and 12 seconds. Now, this one was a little deflating compared to the somewhat high speed, high flying action that we've had with the last four matches. Not because it's, a heavyweight match, but because you've slowed everything down with a huge unk fest. And this is what I was talking about with the Monday Magic thing. Bushi, it feels like Bushi can't do what he wants to do because they have to be. He kind of have to slow a few things down for Naito because he just, not that he's not good and he doesn't understand what's going on, but he just can't physically keep up anymore. It's definitely not a bad match. I will say that. It's just was a crazy contrast from the previous four matches going into this one. And Naito just, man, Naito. It's just, it's got to be time to, we've got to be getting close to him hanging up the boots. Um, at at the Tanahashi retirement, Tanahashi was like, "You can always come back to New Japan. The door's always open." I was like, I don't think that's a door you want to open. I think Naito really just needs to phone it in, or really just lock in and get some stem cell treatments for those knees. Uh, maybe that'll help. He's done wonders for Rey Mysterio, so why wouldn't it do wonders for him? But big moment of this match is LTJ debuts a new member in Angel Reyes in Japan. And he almost kills himself on the first move. Does a tope suicida and almost bangs the top of his head on the apron. So that would have been a rough watch. I think he clipped his forehead a little bit, but yeah, that's a tough watch. Yes, all four members of Los Tranquilos de Japón are now in Pro Wrestling Noah. So they were having a celebratory moment after the match was over with that. And Manabu Soya comes out and challenges for the tag titles. At the moment he does this, he doesn't have a teammate. Later, it would be revealed that he and Shuji Kondo will be challenging for the tag team titles. I do really love the White Raven squad, though. I hope they can kind of figure out what to do with them. I do miss Oka Sasukai. He's one of my favorites on the roster. I say that about a lot of guys. I love the Noah roster. I do. There aren't a lot of people on this Noah roster that I really just don't care for. And so but he's one of my top favorites. Uh, Kenta and then Tetsuya Endo. Hayata, I mean, we talked about it last week. I'm still not super high on Hayata, but it did grow on me in this match. So I look forward to what they can do with the White Raven squad, especially when they're back at full force. Because Oka is on an excursion to the U.S., but I don't think I've seen anything about him wrestling anywhere. So I don't know what he's doing. I thought he was going to be in NXT. I thought that's what they said, but I mean, I haven't watched WWE in a while, but I feel like I would have seen if he debuted on NXT anytime recently. I don't think he has. But that Manabu Soya and Shuji Kondo match should be pretty fun, so I'm looking forward to that. Then we get into the main event, GHC heavyweight title match. Yoshiki Inamura defeats Takeshi Sugiura in 19 minutes and 39 seconds. This was a really, really, really good one. So a lot of people like hate on this match. I will say, I said it was really, really good. I stand by that. I don't think it was a 5-star match though. I think I gave it a 3.75 or a 4. I still need to update my drop kick. I forgot to do that. But yeah, it wasn't like people were like hating on this match on Twitter the next morning when I was like checking on the event and see what was happening. And like I didn't really think it was that bad. I thought it was pretty good. Um I thought this was like Inamura's best defense in my opinion. I think that he and Kano will have a better defense um later on because he finally gets his title match on March 8th. Um I I still believe that Excursion was bad for Inamura. I feel like it's made him soft. But Segura definitely pulled out um some of that, more heavy hitting side of him, which I think was awesome. Because for such a big guy, he kind of feels soft. And that's not a guy you want to feel soft. He should feel, maybe like a killer teddy bear. But he just kind of feels like a teddy bear. Um, Segura, still a killer. Um, he they were talking about this during the match. He holds the record for longest um days held the GHC heavyweight championship. Um, so he's well established with that title. He's a well established veteran. This was really good at establishing Yoshiki Inamura as well as you know giving I wouldn't say giving the title a little more prestige, but giving the reign some prestige because it's been almost plagued with Team 2000X BS. Even though Segura is a Team 2000X member, having a big win over him when Inamura hasn't beaten him yet in a singles competition uh, is big, means a lot for the title, means a lot for Inamura. Um, and so I thought this was a really good match. Team 2000X tried to put Inamura in a cage, but thank you to Kano. Their plan failed. And um, Yoshitatsu and who else was in the cage? Ozawa, I believe, uh, got stuffed in there and take them out. Um, that was a kind of like crazy part because you know Segura waved off Team 2000X early, um, and so I didn't. I was hoping that they kind of would just leave it as a one-on-one, but I know those hopes. I should have put more hope in in a better idea than a giant cage. Um, but it was kind of interesting watching them push it out because they could barely fit it through the audience. Um, they just didn't. The cage was just huge. It was a huge cage for what they were trying to do. Um, but yeah, plan was thwarted. And they finished up the match. I don't understand why people were hating on this. But yeah, we move into Kano on March 8th is the next confirmed title match. You know, you never know. There might be another one in between here and there, but I believe that'll probably be Inamura's next defense. All right. Then we move into Junior Tag 214. So they ran a double event um, on this day. I think it was like a morning and afternoon thing. Um, and so it was kind of like a house show. They only had one camera angle. Um, and the matches were like okay. There wasn't anything really to write home about. Even with the junior tag league matches, none of them were like crazy good outside of uh the Team 2000X Team 2000X match. I thought that one was really good. But most of these are just kind of it felt like I was watching the same thing I had just seen over again. Um with a lot of the same spots as the stuff from the 211 show. Felt like I recycled matches against different people. But let's go ahead and get into the part one, be a six-man tag team match. Ita and Katsumi Inahara and Yuto Kuyagi defeat Amakusa, Bagmansori, and Manabu Soya. Then, in 7 minutes and 48 seconds, excuse me. Six-man tag team match, White Ribbon Squad, Hayata Kenta and Tetsuya Indo defeat Hajime Ohara, Sri Taniguchi, and Shuji Kondo in 7 minutes and 35 seconds. Tag team match, Team 2000X, Ozawa and Kashi Segura defeat All Rebellion and Galeno and Harutoki. 11 minutes and 1 second. Then we get a singles match. Kaito Kitayama defeats Hiroto Tsuruya. This was interesting to me to see a singles match on this card because everything else is tag matches. And it being Kaito against Tsuruya, which is kind of crazy. That match went 7 minutes 39 seconds with Kaito winning. Nothing really changed about my feelings on that one. Then we go into the first of two junior tag league matches of this event. Alejandro and Dragon Bane defeat Toshi Kodige and High 69, 11 minutes and 12 seconds. Like I talked about earlier, they reused a lot of spots. And I think for this match specifically with Alejandro and Dragon Bane, having a single camera didn't really do them any favors as they're kind of high flying, moving around a lot, doing a lot of really crazy stuff, and like jumping around. And having one camera to capture it all is a little hard. Um, so it wasn't a bad match. It was pretty good still, but it did feel like they were kind of phoning it in and running, you know, their regular move set. Not trying to get inventive, not trying to do anything special, just trying to, fill the time slot, get the win, and move on to the next event. Which I can't blame them. Two events in one day is kind of crazy. Um, but this was still wasn't bad. But Alejandro and Dragon Bane in the week with 4 points. Team Noah ends with 2. And then we have Noah Junior League tag match number 2 with Team 2000X, Jun Masakoa, and Toyusuke defeating Team 2000X and Alpha Wolf and Kai Fujimura. This one was really good. I honestly, I just expected a finger poke of doom kind of match here. They went for 8 minutes. I really expected it to only be like 2 at most. But I was pleasantly surprised by the competitiveness. They both, both going in with 4 points, and this is for the lead of the tournament right now. So, it was really competitive. They really gave it their all to each other. I kind of hope this one would be on a little bit bigger stage and given a little bit more time, but it ended with respect, even though it did end with a low blow. Um, so I guess you can't really expect Team 2000X to treat their members any better than they would treat anybody else. And then the main event was a six-man tag team match. Kieran Lacey, Mark Truitt, and Yoshiki Inamura defeat Hino and Daga and Daki Odashima in 12 minutes and 7 seconds. Overall, the show was fine. Both of these shows were fine. It's just like a lot of, you know, a lot of big tag matches, 6, 8 man tag matches. They don't really do anything for, you know, pushing anything weekly. And so it just is what it is almost at that. Um, but I mean, it's not terrible. They were still like fun matches, but it wasn't anything compelling. I wouldn't go watch these events again. Once these are done, I'll probably just wipe my hands and keep moving. Um, all right, so we get to part number 2, tag team match. White Raven squad, Hayata and Tetsuya Endo defeat Hino and Yuto Koyagani, 9 minutes and 19 seconds. Let me get into another tag team match. Manabu Soya and Suji Kondo defeat Nomichi Marafuji and Shohei Taniguchi in 10 minutes and 4 seconds. Then we get into a 6-man tag team match. Team 2000X, Kai Fujimura, Masa Kitayama, and Ozawa defeat All Rebellion, Alejandro Harakochi, and Kaito Kitayama in 11 minutes and 2 seconds. And another 6-man tag team match. Dragon Bane, Galeno, and Yoshiki Inamura defeat Team 2000X in Alpha Wolf, Jun Masakota, and Tsurusuke in 11 minutes and 54 seconds. And then an 8-man tag match. Los Tranquilos de Japón and Angel Reyes, Bushi Rusei, and Tetsuya Naito defeat Hitoshi Kotage, Hajime Ohara, High 69, and Mohamed Yone for 11 minutes 59 seconds. There's Mohamed Yone. I just haven't seen him in a while. I wrote the notes and then forgot that he was in this 8-man tag team match. So I guess he's still hanging around. But my Team Noah point still stands from earlier. I think they need to disband. Maybe let the guys kind of do some different stuff, I guess. Then we get into the last 2 matches, which are junior tag league matches. We have Amakusa and Blackman Sore versus Ita and Katsuyumi Inahara to a time limit draw, 15 minutes. A lot of good action in this one. I'm gonna take this time to talk about Inihara. Sorry. Like what I was talking about earlier, where he really needs to kind of figure himself out. He has a lot of potential. I think he could be really, really, really good for Noah, not Team Noah, for Noah. If he could just kind of figure out who he wants to be. Because right now he's kind of wrestling in an all-around style. He can roll around on the mat. He can strike. He can high fly. He can do all of that. But there's no real clear direction on who he is. He's not leaning towards a style. He's just kind of using them all, which is fine. I think it's great. I think if you can do all styles, it's really, really good, and that would be really good for your career. But he doesn't have anything that sets him apart from anybody else. They've got 3 other rookies working. And apart from the fact that he's not as green as they are, there's really no difference in what he's doing and what they're doing. He's got solid blue trunks, solid blue knee pads, and white boots. He's still rocking the rookie gear, and so like he hasn't changed that up. In contrast, we can look at Daki Odashima, who has he's changed his trunks up. changed his look up. Kind of he's boosted his confidence working with Daga. He's held a championship belt now, or is still holding one, really. But he is quite the contrast from where we were a year ago with him. Um, and Inihara really needs to hit a point where he goes through that transformation and kind of figures out what he wants to be, who he wants to do, or what he wants to do. Um, change the gear up. Yeah, some people can work the solid trunks and matching colors and everything. Um, but I feel like when you have the freedom to kind of express yourself in whatever way you want, blue trunks, solid blue trunks is kind of an odd choice, but I'll leave that to him to decide. It's not my decision to make. Um, but this was a time limit draw, so each team got a point, which was great for both teams because neither of them had any points for this tournament at all. Lots of near falls at the end. Um, both teams were really trying to pull victory out, but didn't quite get it. I am surprised at a draw on a house show though. That was kind of a interesting booking decision to me, I guess. Um, I feel like I guess if you're gonna do a draw, a house show is the best place to do it. Um, but I think it could have been a really cool moment to have, especially for Inihara if he was able to be the last one to pin somebody as the time runs out. But we did not get that. And I was kind of shocked that they didn't just end it with a regular pin. But this was still a pretty good match. I like all four of these guys. I talk about Blackman Sori. I've talked about Amakusa a lot. Ida, I'm pretty sure I'll get to probably next week. I'll have a little section about Ida like I've had about everybody else so far. But this was a good one. And then we go to the main event. Daga and Daki Odashima defeat Kieran Lacey and Mark True in 11 minutes and 44 seconds. This was a really good way to cap off the weekend. Both teams looked really, really good coming out of this. Even in defeat, Kieran Lacey and Mark True still looked really strong. Two of my top three teams in the tourney in this match. So, but I still have this one still gives me that same kind of feeling of, we're watching some of the same spots over again. Same with the last match too. He's kind of watching some of the same spots that we just watched on the 11th, and they're doing what got a good reaction on the 11th, and then not really mixing anything new in. And so this was still really good though. Doing that there's no problem in doing that, especially when you're running as many events as they are this week, especially with that double header in one day. Kind of not necessarily phoning it in, but kind of relaxing a bit and doing stuff, get the reaction you want, and you can kind of get the crowd involved and then keep moving. Would make sense. But yeah, this was still a really good match. Really, really good way to end in the night. For some reason, I always thought Kieran Lacey and Mark True were heels. But they did shake hands with Daga and Daki Odashima at the end, raised hands. Really cool moment for that. And that is the end of the week for Noah. It was a good week. It was a lot for a week. That was a lot of matches. I also missed the fact that the 14th show was a 2-piece event. I watched one piece and then completely biffed it, missed the second one. But we're here. We've seen it now. Let's take a look at the schedule. So they have a show tomorrow, or I guess really bleeding into tonight, bleeding into tomorrow, that we'll cover next week, as well as Saturday and Sunday and Monday. So they'll be going for um a um four piece right here this weekend, uh on the 20th, 21st, 22nd, and 23rd, which will be um let's see, when is the I think that it ends March 1st. Okay, so yeah, March 1st will be the following week. So we will hit all four of these events next week. So we'll probably have a pretty long episode next week. I might break it up into two parts. So be on the lookout for that. We will make a decision at some point. Because four back to back to back to back events is a lot to talk about. Especially since they'll probably mostly be junior tag matches. But I think that will be it for this week. As always, you can find me at Blackhawk Walker on all platforms. Instagram is the Blackhawk Walker. I believe I will be streaming some this weekend with some friends, possibly on Twitch. So make sure to check that out if you want to. I don't know what we're going to be playing yet, but we'll be playing some games. Should be a really really good time. So if you can, come hang out with us. But that will be it for the Emerald Arc, and I will see you next time.